Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have no comments for this evening, so I will go on to the citizens addressing the board. Anyone wishing to address the county board on an item not on the agenda may come forward at this time to be recognized by the board chair. Please state your name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 5 minutes. A personnel complaint against an individual county employee may not be heard initially at a board meeting. Personnel complaints may be submitted to the board in writing through the county administrator's office. A person addressing the board may not use profanity or vulgar language. Is there anybody wishing to address the county board? I assume there's no one online, Diane? Oh. Oh.
Oh. Hello, can I say my address now?
Yeah, name and address, please, yes.
My name is Isabella Schaefer. I am unfortunately a resident of 814 3rd Street Southeast here in Bemidji. Whew. Let me make it clear, I'm not shaking out of fear. Whew. It's passion. I'm going to read off of a script because I am winded. My name is Isabella Schaefer. I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, owner of the recovery space, and a person in long-term recovery from opioid addiction for over 9 years. I began being prescribed opioids at 9 years old in Cokato, Minnesota by Dr. Carrie Haig. I did not stop using opioids until I was pregnant with my child at 19 years old, eventually returning back to Minnesota with an order of protection that had an affidavit over 50 pages. I spent the height of my opioid use in the Appalachia region of Kentucky, where I had no access to treatment and spent most of my time unhoused. Fast forward to now, I'm a mother of 2 children, the spouse of a first responder, holder of a bachelor's degree, and small business owner. I am a recipient of Medicaid. I'm an Alice family, and I utilize WIC. My business, the recovery space, to date has an operating budget of $0. I operate a syringe exchange program, distribute harm reduction supplies, both in a brick and mortar and through mobile outreach. To date, I source my supplies from 4 different states and work both above and underground to make sure people have access to the supplies that they need. As a person with lived experience, I can appreciate the commission wanting to take as much due diligence in the dispersal of our funding. However, people are dying. Any delay in the release of funds prevents our organizations from continuing to provide or begin providing new and emergent services. I might also state that I'm not a recipient of this year's opioid funding. I would highly, highly, highly recommend all commissioners in their off times come see what we do. Be on the streets where we are because we are dying. I'm thankful to have 9 years in recovery from opioid addiction, but the drugs that I was hooked on at 9 years old, they do not exist in this county purely anymore. I create the services that I provide so that if one day I begin using opioids again, I can do so safely so that my children have a mother. I speak for many treatment providers who would gladly be here, however, they are treating the opioid addiction. Let me be clear, my recommendation is that we release the funds as soon as possible today. And my challenge is that in the next 365 days, you work closely with Health and Human Services and all of the organizations that serve the folks in our area and come up with a way to offset the $70,000 that Health and Human Services currently uses to offset their budget. I would ask that we use the budget and all of the 11 recommended ways that the federal government endorses the opioid funds being used. Let it be clear that these funds are not federal, state, or county funds. These are blood money funds. These are my funds. These funds come from the bankruptcy settlement of Purdue Pharma. These funds are our funds. People are dying. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. And remind anybody else that this is items not on the agenda. Seeing no one else, we'll move on. The approval of the agenda, Commissioner Winger, I believe we have a item that was moved off the consent agenda.
Yeah. Move to approve with this addition, move 7F to 12A.
Okay. Do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Carlson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Approval of the consent agenda, the amended consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Commissioner Winger. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. On to the regular agenda. We have a public hearing for the solid waste ordinance. And Brian coming up from our solid waste department.
I am, thank you, commissioners. We do have a slide presentation here that will just discuss what we're asking to do with this amended, with the amendment that we're trying to adjust Article 5 of the ordinance, and then we're also trying to clear up some grammar errors and different things like that throughout it. One of the things is getting the terminology right. We had department instead of division in there, so we had a whole bunch of changes in there. I was an administrator. I made that all director, so we have just some naming conventions that were improved. So we'll get going here. So a little bit of history for those that don't know the history of the solid waste ordinance or the solid waste division. We're gonna talk a little history, process taken, proposed updates, public.
Excuse me, Brian. Commissioner Carlson.
Chair, are we supposed to open the public hearing first? And then
Yeah, I think we actually should be prior to you starting the
Okay.
presentation here, Brian. So,
Mr. Chair, I move to open the public hearing for solid waste ordinance.
okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Carlson to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Gould. All in favor of opening the public hearing officially, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. We've kind of got the wheels before the cart or whatever. Thanks, Brian. Go ahead.
Yes. So back to where I was, as far as, I think I left up proposed updates, public comment, and then board recommendation. So the history for where we're at, kind of by the accounting portion or how the commercial billing process has changed. And that's kind of what that Article 5 of the ordinance is pertained to. And that's the biggest change in this. Before 2015, this was all done by contracted services. And then in 2015, it was split. The Environmental Services Department actually took over the demolition landfill invoicing, and then Waste Management, which is our contractor, continued on with the commercial invoicing. In 16 is when the solid waste division was formed, and that is when we took over everything. So that's where we get to 2016. We then inherited their Access database. We've now then changed to QuickBooks. We actually have another program that we work that's integrated with our scale system and QuickBooks, which is called WasteWorks. And then after that, in 2019 and 20, we updated a 40-year-old ordinance, and that incorporated both ordinances 25 and 13. 25 was a standalone ordinance, which was just for the commercial billing. So we incorporated that so we don't have to have two ordinances, but that's why I'm also coming to you, because now it affects the one ordinance anytime we have a change in our billing process. So we've been working on this. And the process is very cumbersome right now. This is something we've inherited. We didn't want to change it because we wanted to make sure we had all of our ducks in a row before we go ahead and do any wholesale changes, because we don't want to break the bank. I believe I understand the system well enough now, and that we need to change this. We're tracking businesses in this county instead of garbage, and I think we need to track waste instead of businesses as they move from place to place. The other thing that businesses were placed into a tier. With the new process, they will no longer be placed into a tier system. So if you're, for instance, a business that just made 15 tons of waste, you're paying the same amount as someone that has 17 tons of waste. With this, you're going to be paying for what you actually produce, and that'll be billed out through the hauler. So the process taken, we started this, I've been bringing this up at the Solid Waste Committee. We decided to tackle it this past year. So I've been working on this to come up with a plan, get all the changes done in the ordinance. Then we went in and I discussed it with all the haulers first. And then I discussed it with, I had a meeting with all of the businesses, which we actually recorded as well. Any of the input that was on there, and that's all been posted onto the website. And now, last month, we asked to do a public hearing. We advertised, and here I am today to discuss the potential approval of the changes. So the proposed changes, mentioned formatting, there were some spelling mistakes. We're doing the definition for MSW, because this fall we will be starting to put source separated organics into our MSW garbage cans. So that is actually against a state statute. Once you source separate recyclables, it's against the law to put them back into the garbage. We, in Beltrami County, because of where they're going to be going, they'll actually be then removed from the MSW and then put into the compost waste stream, which that'll all go to the Polk County landfill. And then chapter 5, the big thing with this, and I already kind of talked about it, but it was, we're going to track waste instead of businesses. That's really what it comes down to. The businesses had to register with us. We had to track their volumes that they produced. They paid us and paid the hauler, which a lot of businesses, that was strange for them if they're new to the county, that they've never had to pay the county for the processing disposal. And I would entertain that this doesn't go into effect till 1 January, since everything is already in place for this year, that we start this beginning of next year. The process, you can see, is much more streamlined as far as in my opinion, on all parties. For us, the hauler's already picking up the waste. They're already needing to charge that business for the service. They'll get charged for the size of container that they're being that goes into the garbage truck, and then that's how they'll get billed. Frequency and size of container. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Ryan? Ryan? No. The only thing I think you alluded to it, but we are not doing it the way most other solid waste
Currently,
counties.
no.
And that this would bring us in line with the majority of all the other solid waste.
Well, it's not necessarily the counties, it's more of the industry.
Or the industry, yeah.
Yes.
So it just makes sense and makes it simpler and everything else, so. Thank you for the presentation, Brian. At this point, we would be open for any public comment. If anybody is here to have any public comment on the proposed changes for the solid waste ordinance. Anybody online, Diane? No. Okay. I'll ask a second time for public comment. And have to do it 3 times, so, and ask for a third time for public comment. Seeing no one, no public comment, we'll close the public comment section and look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gould. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion, the public hearing is closed. So now we bring the issue back to the board, decide the board's wishes. Have any discussion? Otherwise, I look for a motion to approve the changes to the solid waste ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the.
Okay, so we have a Commissioner Winger made a motion to approve the changes to the solid waste ordinance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Carlson. Any further discussion on the solid waste ordinance?
Mr. Chair,
Yep, Commissioner Sumner.
so the Solid Waste Committee reviewed this and is in support and there was no major issues or anything of that sort.
No, it actually somewhat surprising, everybody was more concerned, as you showed in the presentation there, with the process than the costs, and the solid waste committee is fully behind this, and so, yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sumner. Any other further discussion? I'll call for the question then. All in favor of approving the changes to the solid waste ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Brian. And that moves us on to the 2025 allocation of opioid settlement dollars. Hope we, Commissioner Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to thank the public for their patience for the 2-week time period that I specifically asked for to be able to check the process, to make sure that I was satisfied that we were following the memorandum of understanding with the state, that all the allocations were done properly so that we didn't get in any trouble later on. And I really want to thank Amy Bowles, our Public Health Director, and Ann Linseth, excuse me. Thank you for taking the time to go over that with me. It was fun reading, but it was worthwhile. I also want to thank Chris Earl. Chris visited with me this morning, and I was able to, and Belle, I'm sorry I missed you when I was there, but it was I had a really nice visit with him. Chris is the executive director of Face It Together. And I was very impressed with the operation over there. I had expressed to Chris that I was a little dismayed that maybe we didn't fund 100% of his project and maybe somebody else got 100%, but at the end of the day, Chris said he's grateful to get something. And then I did find that there's some synergy between Face It Together and the Nameless Coalition for the Homeless and the New Day Center. And so that was very, very exciting to me to find out that there was that synergy going on, so that it sounds like, whatever maybe whatever grants are going to the Nameless Coalition can maybe in some way still help out Face It Together. So I was very excited about that. And again, thanks to Amy and Ann for your professionalism and walking me through all that. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the distribution up to $70,050 of opioid settlement dollars to support the RFP applicants.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. We have a motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gould. Further discussion? Commissioner Winger?
I just have something I'd like to say about it. My main job, my full-time job is I do non-emergency medical transportation, and all we do is transport to and from an opioid recovery clinic. So I totally understand where this is all coming from and the need for all of these things. My concern by seconding it was when we're sitting here looking at the amount of money that the state had proposed taking from Health and Human Services, that we were going to lose staff that work with these things already, because we can't afford to just keep adding to everybody's taxes and cover that. I was really glad to hear today how much difference we're looking at money-wise, potentially. That's a huge difference, and those are things that hopefully we're going to be able to make up. And I just wanted to make sure we were making the right decision on that one too, because I didn't want to see staff lose from health services there that work with these every day, and some of the other things that they require to be able to put out to help people. So that was my reason for doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner
Mr.
Winger.
Chair,
Yes,
I
Commissioner
think it'd
Carlson.
be really important for the public, before we make our final vote, to, if we could have Amy come up and review the specifics of the MOU that we have, and why maybe somebody gets more dollars than another gets, and how you scored the process. It's just a reminder to the public of why.
And maybe if you could also touch on how you don't just hand a check over for the full amount. It's a reimbursement process, and they have to meet the criteria that meet the MOU criteria to be able to get the reimbursement.
In the event that you did ask for me to come forward tonight, I did prepare just a brief 5-minute presentation. Would it be okay if I just read my notes to you and that
Go ahead.
covered both of those questions?
Yep, go
All
ahead.
right, so I am
Thank you,
Amy
Amy.
Bowles. I'm your Public Health Director and your Community Health Board Administrator. So to start our discussion this evening, I'd like to start with reviewing the processes that guided the Opiate Steering Committee in making the second recommendation to the County Board. Since the board's unanimous approval of the Opiate Steering Committee in September of 2023, which included the appointment of a commissioner to represent the voice of the full board, the committee has operated under the board's document titled the Opiate Steering Committee Guidelines. The committee held its first meeting in October of 2023 and has met monthly since. Every other month, the approved committee advisory members, so that's just our community members, they join us, the county staff, to participate in those meetings. And we ensure that both professional expertise and lived experiences informs the work that we do. Prior to that first meeting, all 17 committee members were required to read and become familiar with the Minnesota Opioid State Subdivision Memorandum of Agreement. So from here on out, I'll refer to that as your MOA. I want to pause here to emphasize a key point for our constituents, stakeholders, and community partners. The state has implemented a robust and stringent set of guidelines, and these guidelines are for every single county, and every single county has to follow them. Here are some highlights from that MOA. It requires the creation of a special revenue fund that must not be commingled with any other funds. The funds may be invested, but any investment earned must be used in accordance with the Exhibit A of the MOA. The funds that may be contracted to nonprofits, charities, and other entities, but again, they can only be used for the approved uses outlined in the Exhibit A of the MOA. Settlement dollars must be used strictly for future opioid remediation activities. Public Health serves as the lead agency and the chief strategist. Counties may dedicate a portion of funds to support community-based work, again, aligned and guided we're guided through the Exhibit A. And then an annual detailed report must be submitted to the state to demonstrate that all expenditures align with the MOA's requirements. And I can tell you that report takes me almost a week to complete. Since our October of 2023 meeting, the steering committee has had the privilege of hosting 3 community listening sessions. These sessions were not performative. They were strategic opportunities to listen deeply to the people we serve and the service providers who are doing the work every day. Our goal was to ensure that community voices shaped our funding priorities, making sure our strategies were grounded in the unique realities of Beltrami County. not simply replicating metro-based approaches that may not fix our rural needs. One message was consistent and clear. Our communities want these funds to support the agencies and services that are already working hard to address the urgent and complex challenges unique to rural northern Minnesota. Following this input, the county board unanimously approved the first RFP on January 17th of 2024. We structured it closely to how the state distributes similar funds. Although we worked to make the application process as accessible as possible, the process remained competitive and aligned strictly with the MOA's approved remediation uses. As your lead agency and chief strategist, I want to assure this board and our community that there are robust checks and balances in place for each recipient of the opiate settlement funds, including the annual $70,000 that are allocated to county-based services. Each funded agency begins with a 2-hour one-on-one meeting with me. We review the contract, the expectations, and I clearly outline everything that they have to submit to me. Each recipient submits detailed quarterly reports. Funds are reimbursed only after I verify those expenditures were compliant with the MOA and Exhibit A. So there's 2 parts that we have to compare all of that funding to. Last year, the board unanimously approved the committee's recommendation to distribute up to $145,349 in state opiate settlement dollars to support 5 RFP applicants. And as you've already mentioned, tonight we bring forward our second RFP recommendation as we continue to respond to the impact opiates have had and continue to have on our community. And it sounds like we're already headed in that direction, but if we weren't, I wanted to urge this board to again consider the voices of our grassroots partners. Without them, we will struggle to make measurable progress in our community. And our community health assessment that we've been working on, it's not going to change. All we're going to do is keep adding to the problems that we have in our community health improvement plan. So Beltrami County continues to bear the weight of some of the highest rates of health disparities in our state. Infants are withdrawing at birth, overdoses continue to happen, and premature deaths plague our community. The committee you appointed is determined to shift that narrative. This funding gives us a real opportunity to move the needle together.
Any questions for Amy? Commissioner Sumner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first, Amy, I want to thank you and the advisory members and the steering committee. I see firsthand, the conversations that you guys have, the work that you guys do, the hours that you put in to read these applications. There's a lot of information, and I see the discussions that you guys have, after reading them, coming together and deciding, how to allocate these funding, these grants. So I just want to show my appreciation, express that, I thank you for that. Also, maybe a question for the board or Tom, Amy, I'm not too sure, but I'm kind of curious. So tonight we're voting on the community allocations for the opioid funding, correct?
Correct, the $70,000. Yep.
So when and where do we vote on the county allocation of the $70,000? And do they submit an application, or what's the process to that? Kind of curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when the committee meets as a whole, so all 17 members have the opportunity together, we talk about and we kind of deliberate about all the different needs. And then when the county group meets together, we take under advisement the needs of the community and in which programs within our agency best help support the work of the needs of within our community, right? And so throughout the last 2 years, we've brought some proposals to the board, and so the board has made that decision. And so the 8 of us on the county-based side of things have brought presentations to this board asking for permission how we're going to allocate the $70,000 that we set aside out of the 140 every year.
Okay. So, but there was no questions about the county allocations or what they're being used for or anything like that?
No.
Okay, okay. Is there a way to get these funding sources kind of in line with each other? Bring them at the same time or why hasn't that been?
So are you asking, like, for example, the 5 organizations that we're recommending to the board tonight, like bringing them together to talk about the work that they're doing
No,
together?
no, not,
Or,
but submitting the request at the same time that the counties get submitted that way. You know, if we have questions or concerns that we're not kind of picking and choosing, you know, what organizations, you know, get funding or things like that. To me, it seems like a fair process on how to, you know, allocate these fundings. I mean, they're from the same source. But in a way, it seems like one group is getting favored over another and the opioid crisis is a serious situation that we have to remember at the county that we weren't fighting this alone. And we had community partners that were suffering as well. So to me, it seems like we should have all the same requests at the same time without causing any confusion and kind of nitpicking and things like that. So if we can make that request, I would, you know, appreciate, we
yeah,
can try to get that in line somehow.
if we have future requests for how to allocate the $70,000, we can look at, you know, if that process would make sense to present it when we present the opiate applications. Right now, our process internally is we actually aren't spending all of our $70,000. So we've been much slower in allocating those dollars to make sure that we are making great recommendations to this board. But it was really important to us to get the community's portion of that money out there. And so that's why we did the RFP process, so that $70 can be out, or $70,000 can be out there to the community. And in the meantime, the county $70,000 is taking a little bit of a slower process to make sure that we are aligned with the MOA, that we're aligned with the Exhibit A, the remediation uses, and you know, looking at, is it something we want to do a one-time once for a program, or is this something ongoing that we want to fund every year for a program?
Well, again, I just want to thank you. I want to thank all the people that have reached out, you know, the past couple of weeks and with their support and passing this this important opioid funds to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sumner. Any other commissioners want to ask any question? I have a question for you, Amy. I believe last year, there was a couple of organizations that applied and got funding and that they didn't apply this year. You have any, did they, or at least they're not being awarded this year anyways. Did we have some that applied last year that didn't get funded this year, or just a couple that just didn't apply?
Howard was the only organization that applied last year, was awarded and applied again this year.
The drug court wasn't?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
yes, the drug court.
Yeah, so there were two of the 4 last year.
Yep.
But there were 2 other ones that applied that
Vill-
didn't.
Village of Hope did not apply,
And then we had 3 that didn't apply last year that applied this year and got funded, correct?
yes.
Any idea why those ones that got funded last year didn't apply this year?
You know, I can't say because they're using the money. Correct.
They did use it and get reimbursed?
Some are still using it.
Oh,
So they have 18 months to spend the money that they get.
okay.
So none of them have reached out to say like the process was too hard, it was too much paperwork. To be honest with you, the application process, because we have the tight like procedures and the guidelines that we get from the state, if we could make it, you know, like a 1-2 page application where it's like pick one of the remediation uses, tell us how you would use it, and they could just write us a, an essay about it, it would make it much easier for many of our more smaller, community-based, people who only have 4 or 5 people, or even less in their organization.
Mhm.
So, just knowing the busyness of my schedule and working with grants and writing grants, I can only imagine the time constraint and really when you're writing a grant, you have to evaluate, like, is all of the sweat equity that I'm putting into that grant going to be worth what I'm getting out of it? So if you think, like, even if you look at like how much money we're recommending to some of these organizations, if you take, the Bemidji Fire Department and you ask chief, hey, how much time did it take you to fill out this application? And you take his salary and then what he's actually asking for, like, it's, what do they say? That the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
So that would be my guess, but none of them have said any reason why they didn't apply again.
And that's what I was wondering, if it was too arduous of paperwork on the reporting side, or Nick, you haven't really heard any specific reasons of why they wouldn't have applied again this year?
No, and, we require them to come to at least 2 meetings a year to report out to the opiate steering committee on how they're doing, like updates and give more details. So the other people, other than just me, where I get all the reports back from them and I'm going over all the financials and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I want the other people to hear it directly from the recipients. So they do attend our meetings.
Okay, great. I think you're doing a great job with this, and thank you for coming forward and informing us.
Well, thank you for hearing me.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Anything else?
So we have a motion and a second on the table here. I think that's it, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on it? Otherwise, are you okay with the regular vote, or do we want a roll call vote? Regular vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Next item on the agenda is the county mailbox support policy. And we had a presentation from Bruce in our work session on that. Look for a motion to approve the mailbox support policy.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the proposed mailbox support policy.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Carlson. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Winger. Any further discussion on the mailbox support policy?
Mr. Chair, I was hoping that we would have a little bit more concrete numbers about the cost and is it
Oh.
an annual thing or?
Yeah,
is it
Bruce is
just to maintain, things like that?
maybe has gotten the numbers while he was here. I don't know.
Well, you didn't ask that question originally, so I didn't look that one up, but I did look up what the grant was that we have coming next year. That is $162,000 in federal funds. And so then we would have our match to it. And at that time, when we submitted the grant, we were estimating that we would be replacing 1,200 supports out there. We do have, again, right now, the fee schedule is set at $0 for these, for the furnished installation. And we haven't really kept track of how many we're doing each year. We buy supports as we need them, and they fall within our budget. We haven't had a huge influx of requests or need for purchasing a whole bunch more supports than normal. And so nothing out of the ordinary there for costs right now.
Thank you.
Great. I was off by 11 grand. Anybody else have any further questions? We have a motion and a second, I believe, on the table. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have 4-1. Thank you. On to the county newsletter policy. And there again, we discussed this, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the county newsletter policy.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Winger. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gould. Any further discussion on the newsletter policy?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Sumner.
I enjoy being here, late in the evening for our meetings, which is why I always ask these questions. Enjoy my time with you guys.
Little levity from Commissioner Sumner today.
But I was wondering, did the county attorney review the proposed newsletter policy?
The newsletter policy?
Yeah. And does the county attorney usually review your policies that are proposed?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think there's any
The
reason.
attorney was not asked to look at this policy.
Okay. And then the oversight that says 2 commissioners, wasn't there just 1 commissioner in the past? Or was there always
Nope.
2?
There's 2 commissioners.
Where are the commissioners?
You want to take my place?
No. I tried last year, but I lost the arm wrestle. I just needed a correction. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The newsletter policy passes 5-0. And then we had the item that we pulled from the consent agenda, the Health and Human Services approval of housing trust funding recommendations.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Gould?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 recommendations as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gould and a second by Commissioner Sumner. Any discussion on the housing trust fund? Commissioner Carlson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I mentioned when we were in work session that I'm in favor of the proposal for the 8 units. I'll be voting no on this motion because I'm not in favor of doing both of them. I would like to, if it passes, fine. If it doesn't pass, I'd like to come back and I will at that time make a motion to accept the 8 units at 220,000, but I can't be in favor of spending $300,000 on 2 houses.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. Any other discussion on this motion? Commissioner
Mr.
Sumner?
Chair.
Yep.
So I guess a question for Commissioner Carlson. During the regular meeting, you were inquiring about Sanford Health, correct? Is that part of why you might not be in favor of the entire request, or I'm kind of curious?
So,
Commissioner Carlson.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Sumner, it just doesn't seem right to me to spend $300,000 on 2 houses when I think that there's an opportunity for larger developments that we could leverage our money better for more units. I don't know that the immediacy of having 2 more houses in 1 year is going to make that much difference as opposed to, so it's the opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of taking $300,000 and using it towards a larger development that we might not see today, but could come within 12 months, maybe within 9 months, within 18 months. It just seems short-sighted to just, because if it's the only or the only application we got, it doesn't seem to make sense to just spend it because that's the only application we got. Whereas I just feel like we need to look at the opportunity cost of spending that on more housing rather than less housing.
Okay. Because I understand that there is a pre-application process, the 12th of December. It was advertised until the 31st of January, a little over a month, almost 2 months. And then I imagine that there was an opportunity for folks, community members, organizations to apply and come back for the full application process 2.5 months later. I don't want to withhold funds if there's already a plan in place. If there was a development that was going to happen or take place, I imagine that they would have applied. And if they didn't, we should not hold these funds from an organization that did their homework, the due diligence to to take the time to apply for this application or for these grants. You know, I imagine with $1.3 million left in the fund, that there would be an opportunity for an organization to come forward maybe next year or however often we send out these development RFPs. We have a housing, you know, need in our community, and to withhold that from people trying to succeed and, you know, be successful in our community shouldn't be, should not have that opportunity because of a potential of a unknown that we don't know about. So I think that is why, you know, we need to, again, support the request from this organization, from Ann, the Housing Trust Fund. It sounds like they did, you know, the scoring and vetted the applications. I'm sure that they had a criteria that really set in place on why they brought forward a recommendation. To me, it seems like, you know, if we are going to continue to question folks, you know, these committees that do their work on our behalf, that, you know, maybe we should just dissolve all the committees and do all the work, you know, that they're doing. You know, I can guarantee that a lot of these folks that sit on these committees are more of an expert and knowledgeable about these types of things than I am, you know. So I think that's why it's important that we support the people that do the work and bring, you know, their decisions and recommendations to us. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Sumner. Yeah, Commissioner Carlson?
I'm not sure if, Ann, would you be willing to come up and talk about an application that was withdrawn?
Or Corey, maybe?
Well, no.
Ann was.
No, of course, okay.
And the reason I asked for that is that there was another application that was put in, and I don't remember how many housing units that might have been. And what the opportunity could be anytime in the near future, or even a year out, of actually, again, leveraging that $300,000 into way more housing units than two. Are you willing to speak to that?
I can speak to the fact that there were 3 applications that were submitted this RFP round. One application wasn't quite ready to move forward. So there are opportunities in our community for development, but they're not shovel ready. So I think when the cabinet made this recommendation, that was the focus, is a shovel ready project to move forward to try to address some of the housing continuum issues. But there are certainly projects out there that may come through a future RFP process. Just to provide some numbers to the board, if we fully funded these 2 requests, we would have $836,680 remaining. If you add in the 25 allocation to that, so by the end of 2025, we will have $1,210,562. So all projects look different in housing. And one of the things that the cabinet has learned is that housing is extremely complex, and there's a lot of different things that go into development of housing, things like TIF, which I didn't know anything about when I first started learning about housing with the cabinet. And different housing grants. And so each project may need a little from the Housing Trust Fund to be viable, or they may need more than a little from the Housing Trust Fund to be viable. So while I definitely understand that a $220,000 investment for 8 houses is certainly, we're getting more for that funding that we're putting in. The cabinet's recommendation is solely based on what can we do now? So that's where they're coming from. But to Commissioner Carlson's point, there are other opportunities in the future, and we hope to be partners through our Housing Trust Fund cabinet with those entities who are looking to develop housing.
And then, Mr. Chair, just to follow up, is it possible, has the cabinet discussed maybe having RFP process every 6 months so that we don't have a partner that's just about there and they're not quite there, and now they got to wait another 11 months, that maybe, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. We can certainly talk as a cabinet about, we've had that conversation before about, do we have a or a kind of an ongoing RFP process where as projects are ready, then they would have an opportunity to apply. So I mean, this is certainly something that I can bring back to the cabinet to talk about how quickly we have RFP openings or if it is an ongoing. I think this initial development RFP was really to kind of garner and see what was out there for interest, and then see, will we have remaining funds in the trust fund to have another RFP process, which we would now. I also think it's pertinent to just share that there is some momentum in the housing development space right now, not just from some of the projects that may be on the horizon, but also from the community. And so you really see that when you look at how the United Way has used their partnerships to get additional funds into the Housing Trust Fund. I mean, the fact that they have raised, I think it's over $100,000, doing my math quick in my head, of additional funding into the Housing Trust Fund through partnerships, through banks and grant loans and just community investment. So we do hope that that will continue as well, to continue to grow this fund for additional opportunities.
So then, Mr. Chair, sorry, has there been discussions? I know the city of Bemidji has always expressed interest in more housing and in affordable housing and all of that. Are we engaging the city of Bemidji in this process in terms of, maybe it's a matter of they can waive some whack and sack fees, that sort of thing, so that we can all be partners in trying to get this? Obviously, that would just be in the city limits. And some of these developments might not be in the city limits, but.
Yes, we have conversations within the cabinet about how developers from their work can kind of leverage some of those things like whack and sack, which I had no idea what that was when we started this process here, but I do know what it is now. So we are certainly using the cabinet and their expertise to work with partner agencies and developers to say, okay, here are some of the things you can access so that the funds do become leveraged by other funds.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Carlson. And you have a question, Commissioner Winger? And anybody have anything else for Ann? Okay, thanks, Ann. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam.
Go ahead, and Commissioner Winger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern is that, $150,000 is pretty cheap to put up a house at this particular, any kind of housing at this point. A couple of years ago, it would have been substantially more. We don't know what it's going to do by next year,
It's not 150,000. No, it's 730 for the 2,000 for the two houses.
Right,
yeah.
right. But what they're talking about, really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. I think we got to get housing out there somewhere, somehow, but I'm concerned about not doing it.
Mhm.
When things are more affordable this year than they have been, and the things I've been looking at it doing anyway. So I don't know. I think people have done their diligence, but.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to respond to Commissioner Winger. I'm curious, and maybe this is a Corey question. I'm curious why on that 8 housing project that the 220 should be a no-brainer. Is there a reason why at least one of those couldn't get started right away?
Yeah, please come forward, Corey, if you are willing to.
We're looking for a win, I believe, but a win at 27,000 $500 is a lot better win than $150,000. So that's where I'm going with that. So is there a reason why some of that can't get started right away, like one or two of them?
Yeah, just because of the way that they're financed, right? And the way that we would secure those grant resources. So we use funding from Minnesota Housing. We apply every year to their challenge program that includes, you know, when we get a grant from them, sometimes it's 2 grants, sometimes it's 4 grants. They have a bunch of funds that they can pool. So we got to time everything right to apply to this application. As you guys are all aware, the budget doesn't look like it did a year or 2 ago. So, you know, without having like those match dollars secured, we're gonna have a really hard time having a competitive application. And we couldn't start the process of building until we have 100% of the funding secured. So that's why we really, when we put in our proposals, you know, North Star Neighbors wanted to provide the housing cabinet with options of short-term and long-term, right? And I think, you know, we can be that piece of momentum and make a splash on these first ones. I know it comes at a higher cost, but you have to, like, I want to bring that back to that higher cost is supporting, you know, 6, 7 families over the next 6, 7, 8 years that are going to be able to benefit from this affordable housing versus, and we're also talking about home ownership. So the costs are a little bit different than when we talk about maybe a 50-unit multifamily project. The benefits that these 6, 7 families are going to get, or if we say 2 houses out of this $300,000, you know, we have 6, 7 families we hope to benefit that, and they're going to benefit from wealth generation. They're going to benefit from being part of a community and part of a neighborhood. You know, all those kind of social impacts that come with homeownership. And that was really why we started North Star Neighbors was, you know, we could continue to do low interest loans and try and spark more rental, but that commitment to create an opportunity for people that's beyond rental housing. So I went a little broader on your question, but I'm trying to kind of to share on the reason why it costs so much and all the benefits to that investment.
So I understand that, but you're talking about 7 or 8 families. You said $300,000 for 2 houses. That's 2 families. That's not 7 or 8. That's 2 families.
But this program is a forever program. So remember when we went through the process of explaining how the program works, we're going to take that initial investment that we put into the house, so $300,000 for two houses. And we expect, based on data that we've looked at across the nation for these community land trust homes, that every 6, 7 years, we'll see some turnover where a family will maybe move on to a traditional market rate home. And now there's that wealth generation because now they've had the opportunity to buy a home at $350,000 that's going to appreciate like everybody else, right? And then we sell that home without coming back to you guys to ever ask for another dollar. Right. And then, so that's where I get to where, you know, we're going to have 2 homes that serve 15 families far beyond me even probably being in this role of, you know, we're building something that's going to last forever.
But imagine the multiplier if you use that $300,000 on another 8 unit home. Just saying.
I think we're interested in, you know, I can see both sides of that. I think there's momentum around housing right now, and we can be that catalyst and be that partner to really make a big splash around what the Housing Trust Fund is doing. And I don't want to speak for anybody else. I just want to say what we can bring to the table, and what we bring is ability to have a shovel ready project that we start working immediately on getting contracts together and getting a house up. And then we bring our marketing team and we support impact stories and things like that around the benefit to this. And we really want to be a partner to the Housing Trust Fund. So, I mean, I want you to believe in us that we're going to be a great decision in starting is the first project out of the Housing Trust Fund.
And there must be some administrative costs that the North Star neighbors, there must be some administrative costs that you're keeping out of that money, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think we put it in 10%. So we just went with the kind of a standard, with kind of standard administrative cost on a grant proposal. I know that, and that's going to require us to put in funding as well to facilitate the construction management and the sale of the home and everything else.
Thank you.
Hey, Corey, the 430,000 that you're showing as being able to secure, is that predicated by having the $300,000 match, or do you have the 430 available so you could build one home without much of a match, or no?
No, because that 430,000 is going to be in the form of a loan. So I've got plan A, B, and C on where we'll get the loan dollars. We'll shop for the best deal for interest to keep the cost down as much as we can.
Okay,
But that part of it is loan dollars that then we get paid back when we sell the home, right?
okay,
Because they're gonna come in and they're gonna pay 225 for the home. So we need the grant dollars and the loan dollars in order to make the project work.
okay. So you couldn't just do one and have the 27.5 match out of the thing and,
No, because that 430, we'll have to finance that piece of the project.
okay,
You know, I guess there's an opportunity to do one home, but we would need to, we would have to.
you'd still be looking
finance.
for the 150,000 instead of 300, and
Yeah.
so it'd still be the
And-
skewed ratio compared to the other proposal.
And I'm hoping we'll get a better deal on the whole project if we do two at once.
Right. Okay. Are these two homes proposed to go on the same physical site as the other 8? So it'd be 10 total homes in one spot, or?
Yes, yep, we're proposing all of these homes in the same neighborhood.
Okay,
So it's the Beartooth neighborhood, or I've also heard it called Mountain View Meadows on the south side of the city of Bemidji, so brand new development.
okay. All right. Any other questions for Corey while we have him on the hot spot? No? Okay. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate you coming back up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all for the time.
So, all right. So we've got a motion and a second, further discussion on it. I'll call for a roll call vote. Commissioner Carlson? Commissioner Gould?
Yes.
Commissioner Winger?
Yes.
Commissioner Sumner?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. So we have 4-1. Thank you. That passes. And that brings us to commissioner business items. We'll take legislative lobbying and commissioner reports together. Commissioner Sumner?
Not much to report from 2 weeks ago. Just want to again remind you that the AMC District 2 meeting is tomorrow. So hopefully I'll see you guys there.
You don't want to drone on for another half an hour so we could stay here later like you wanted to?
I was thinking about it.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Sumner. Commissioner Winger?
I'm not going to be able to make that meeting tomorrow. I have to work. I did attend the household hazardous waste meeting. One of the big things, I guess, for us in this area is they did get an intern from Bemidji State. So she's working over there. And hopefully they might be able to use her for a couple of years. Other than that, things are just going along the way they've been going, and they've got a lot of projects, but it's all good.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Winger. Commissioner Gould?
I hope everyone had a nice Memorial Day weekend and took some time to honor our deceased veterans. I was unfortunately not able to attend a service, but I was able later in the day to check out Greenwood Cemetery here and pay some respects. So that was good. Minnesota Rural Counties met. Zoomed into that meeting. KRLS had their budget committee meeting. I attended an event at Coles Resort on Friday evening, which was really nice. It was pretty good weather except for the smoke coming in. But that didn't necessarily ruin things. They had a musician there and they were doing like a soft opening of a new part of their resort, and it was a good opportunity to support a local business. Joint Powers Board on Natural Resources met. I met with Steve Simon yesterday. Our Minnesota Secretary of State was in town. And there was a group of Bemidji folks. He just kind of wanted to get people's thoughts and ideas on, what our local issues are affecting, Beltrami County. And then, just a quick announcement, Saturday, there's a Chief Bemidji statue, 10 years, event, at 10 o'clock. So if anyone's interested, be a good thing to check out and celebrate. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Gould. Commissioner Carlson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had chat about after last, who's got chat about this? That's always
I do.
fun.
I'll be doing that tomorrow. Yep.
You got it.
Yeah, it's nice to do that. It's nice to do it after instead of before, because then it's like all those things are more clear.
I heard, Councilmember Audrey Thayer on chat about this morning, and I think they probably appreciate it as well.
Yeah. We had Craig and I had the Bemidji Regional Airport Authority meetings last month. Not a lot going on there. I had the Jail Design and Operation Committee meeting. We meet every other week on Tuesdays in the afternoon. Digging deep into the question that was asked about what are we gonna do with the old jail? So we're digging deep into that, and we hope to be able to have something for the board within about probably the next month. I think we're trying to get it sooner rather than later, but we want to make sure that we get more dollar information. That's a little hard to come by right now, but they're honing in on it. So, and then I spent a greater part of the last 2 weeks on the opioid settlement dollars, and I got a good education there. And then I have an upcoming Prime West meeting on Thursday. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlson. As you mentioned, we had our airport authority meeting, and I did appreciate the tour that we got. We actually met a little early and went on a tour of the maintenance facility and got to get some information about the vehicles that they have, and they're pretty cool machines they have out there for clearing them huge, yeah, and clearing the snow and brushing at the same time to clear the grooves and stuff out of the runways. It's pretty neat. And then I had a Mississippi Headwaters Board meeting. I personally brought one of my constituents on the Mississippi River just east of Bemidji, has some sloughing and that on his property, and some working with both Brent and our environmental services as well as the Mississippi Headwaters Board to actually quite a few different options for him to do a shoreline restoration project there, and he's had several large Norways that have tipped over off the edge of his property into the river, and so hoping to stop that from happening. So it's kind of rewarding to be able to have the knowledge of some of these different committees to bring to a constituent to help with a environmental issue like that. So anyhow, that's it. I've got some other meetings coming up, but that's good enough for tonight. Look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner Carlson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sumner. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.